Act One of The Mind the Paint Girl by Arthur Wing Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Persons of the Play.
Viscount Farncombe, read by Thomas Peter.
Colonel the Honourable Arthur Stidolph, read by Alan Mapstone.
Baron von Rettenmeier, read by Nemo.
Captain Nicholas Jays, read by Campbell Shelp.
Lionel Roper, read by Brad.
Femme de Cathro, read by Aaron White.
Herbert Fulkerson, read by Frédéric Surget.
Stuart Heneage, read by Cavanas.
Gerald Grimwood, read by April 6090.
Carlton Smythe, manager of the Pandora Theatre, read by James Thomas.
Albert Pock, actor at the Pandora, read by Sandra Schmidt.
Wilfred Tavish, actor at the Pandora, read by Philip Watson.
Vincent Bland, a musical composer attached to the Pandora, read by Todd.
Morris Cooling, business manager of the Pandora, read by Jim Locke.
Luigi, maître d'hôtel et Catanis Restaurant, read by Pierre.
The Honorable Mrs. Arthur Stidolph, formerly as Dolly Enzer of the Pandora Theatre, read by T.J. Burns.
Lily Paradell of the Pandora, read by Phone.
Jimmy Birch of the Pandora, read by Sonia.
Gabrielle Cateau of the Pandora, read by Pauline Latournerie.
Enid Moncrief of the Pandora, read by Lian Yao.
Daphne Durr of the Pandora, read by Emma Hatton.
Nita Trevenna of the Pandora, read by Lex Hankins.
Flo Conaffy, one of four beauties of the Pandora, read by Eva Davis.
Sybil Dermot, one of four beauties of the Pandora, read by Abai.
Olga Cook, one of four beauties of the Pandora, read by Devora Allen.
Evangeline Ventris, one of the four beauties of Pandora, read by Elsie Selwyn.
Mrs. Upjohn, Lily Paradell's mother, recording by Tracy Duckett.
Gladys, Lily's parlor maid, read by Eva Davis.
Maud, Lily's maid, read by Lian Yao.
Stage directions read by Larry Wilson. The action of the piece takes place in London at Lily Paradell's house in Bloomsbury, in the foyer of the Pandora Theatre, and again at Lily's house. The curtain will be lowered for a few moments in the course of the second act. Mind the Paint Girl, Act One. The scene is a drawing room, prettily but somewhat showily decorated. The walls are papered with a design representing large clusters of white and purple lilac. The furniture is covered with a chintz of similar pattern, and the curtains, carpet, and lampshades correspond. In the wall facing the spectator are two windows, and midway between the windows there is the entrance to a conservatory. The conservatory, which is seen beyond, is of the kind that is built out over the portico of a front door, and is plentifully stocked with flowers, and hung with a velarium and green sunblights. In the right-hand wall there is another window, and nearer the spectator a console table supporting a high mirror, and in the wall on the left, opposite the console table, there is a double door opening into the room, the further half of which only is used. In the entrance of the conservatory, to the right, there is a low oblong tea table, at which are placed three small chairs, and near by on the left are a grand piano and a music stool. Against the piano there is a settee, and on the extreme left below the door there is an armchair with a little round table beside it. At the right-hand window in the wall at the back is another settee, and facing this window and settee There is a smaller armchair. Not far from the fireplace there is a writing table with a telephone instrument upon it. A chair stands at the writing table, its back to the window, in the wall on the right, and in front of the table, opposing the settee by the piano, there is a third settee. On the left of this settee, almost in the middle of the room, is an armchair, and closer to the settee on its right are two more armchairs. Other articles of furniture, a cabinet, occasional chairs, etc., etc., occupy spaces against the walls. On the piano, on the console table and cabinet, on the settee at the back, on the round table, and upon the floor, stand huge baskets of flower and other handsome floral devices in various forms, with cards attached to them; and lying higgledy-piggledy upon the writing table are a heap of small packages, several little cases containing jewelry, and a litter of paper and string. The packages and the cases of jewelry are also accompanied by cards or letters. A fierce sunlight streams down upon the velarium and through the green blinds in the conservatory. Note: throughout, right and left are the spectators' right and left, not the actors'. Lord Farncombe, his gloves in his hand, is seated in the armchair in the middle of the room. He is a simple-mannered, immaculately dressed young man in his early 20s, his bearing and appearance suggesting the soldier. He rises expectantly as Gladys, a flashy parlour-maid in a uniform, shows in Lionel Roper, a middle-aged individual of the type of the second-class city man.
Hullo, I'm in luck. Just the chap I'm hunting for.
Shaking hands with Farncombe.
How do you do, Lord Farncombe?
How are you, Roper?
Gladys to Roper languidly.
I'll tell Mrs. Upjohn you're here.
Ta.
Gladys withdraws.
Phew, it's hot.
Miss Paradell's out.
Roper taking off his gloves.
She won't be long, I dare say.
I've brought her a few flowers.
Have you? I've sent her a trifle of jewellery.
Farncombe glancing at the writing table.
She seems to have received a lot of jewellery.
Roper bustling across to the table.
By Jove, doesn't she? Ah, there's my brooch.
I didn't consider I'd a right to offer anything but flowers on so slight an acquaintance.
Exactly, but I'm an old friend, you know.
Turning to Farncombe.
Perhaps by her next birthday.
Farncombe smiling.
I hope so.
Roper approaching Farncombe and taking him by the lapel of his coat.
What I want to say to you is, doing anything tonight?
I shall be at the theatre.
Oh, we shall all be at the theatre to shout many happy returns. Later, I mean.
Nothing that I can't get out of.
Good. Look here. Smythe is giving her a bit of supper in the foyer after the show. A dance on the stage to follow. About 25 people. Will you come?
If Mr. Smythe is kind enough to ask me.
He does ask you, through me. He's left all the arrangements to me and Maury Cooling. Carlton never did anything in his life. I egged him on to this. I've been sweating at it since 11 o'clock this morning. Haven't been near the city, not near it. Well?
Farncombe, his eyes glowing.
I shall be delighted.
Splendid. Been trying to get on to you all day. I've called twice at your club and at St. James's Place.
Sorry you've had so much trouble.
Roper dropping on to the settee in front of the writing table and wiping his brow.
There'll be the Baron, Sam de Castro, Bertie Fulkerson, Stu Headage, Jerry Grimwood, Dwarf Kennedy, Colonel and Mrs. Stidolph, Dolly Enser that was, and ourselves, besides Cooling and Vincent Bland, and the pick of the company. Catani does the food and drink. I don't believe I've forgotten a single thing.
With a change of tone, pointing to the armchair in the middle of the room.
Sit down a minute.
Farncombe sits and Roper edges nearer to him.
Are you going to wait to see Lily this afternoon?
I should like to.
Because if Jay should happen to drop in while you're here...
Captain Jay's?
Nico Jay's. Or if you knock up against him tonight at the theatre, mum about this?
About the supper?
Roper nodding.
We don't want Nico Jays. We simply don't want him. And if he heard that you and some of the boys are coming, he might wonder why he isn't included.
He strikes me as being rather a surly, ill-conditioned person.
A regular loafer.
He appears to live at Catani's. I never go there without meeting him.
Exactly. Catani's in a top back bedroom in Jermyn Street, and hanging about the Pandora, that's Nico J's life.
He's an old friend of Mrs. Upjohn's and Miss Paradell's too, isn't he?
Roper evasively.
Known him some time. That's it. Lily's so faithful to her old friends.
Farncombe smiling.
You oughtn't to complain of that.
Oh, but I'm a real friend. I've always been a patron of the musical drama. It's my fad. And I've kept an eye on Lily from the moment she sprang into prominence. Mind the paint, mind the paint. Looked after her like a father. Uncle Lal, she calls me.
Reassuringly.
I'm a married man, you know.
Farncombe nods.
But the wife has plenty to occupy her with the kids, and she leaves the drama to me. She prefers Bexhill.
Leaning forward and speaking with great earnestness.
Farncombe, what a charming creature.
Mrs. Roper?
No, Lily. Oh, and so's my missus, for that matter, when she chooses. But Lily Upjohn.
Beautiful. Perfectly beautiful.
Yes, and as good as she's beautiful, you take it from me.
With a wave of the hand.
Well, if you see Jays, you won't...
Not a word.
Roper rising and walking away to the left.
I've warned the others.
Returning to Farncombe, who has also risen.
By the by, if Lily should mention the supper in the course of the conversation, remember she's not in the conspiracy.
Conspiracy?
To shunt Nico. We're letting her think there are to be no outsiders.
Farncombe becoming slightly puzzled by Roper's manner.
Why, would she very much like Captain Jays to be asked?
Roper rather impatiently.
Haven't I told you once you're a friend of Lil's?
Looking towards the door.
Is this Ma?
Mrs. Upjohn enters.
Hello, Ma.
Mrs. Upjohn, a podgy little gaily dressed woman of 55, with a stupid, good-humoured face.
Hello, Uncle.
Lord Farncombe.
Mrs. Upjohn advancing and shaking hands with Farncombe.
Glad to see you here again. You have been before, haven't you?
Last week.
Of course. You came with Mr. Bertie Fulkerson. But somebody or other's always popping in.
Pleasantly.
Lil sees too many, I say. It's tiring for her. Won't you sit?
Lord Farncombe's brought Lily some flowers, Ma.
To Farncombe.
Where are they?
Farncombe, who, after waiting for Mrs. Upjohn to settle herself upon the settee in front of the writing-table, sits in the chair at the end of the settee, pointing to a large basket of flowers.
On the piano.
Mrs. Upjohn barely glancing at the flowers.
How kind of him. Such a waste of money, too. They do go off so quick.
Roper reading the cards attached to the various floral gifts.
Where is Lil?
She's setting to a rising young artist in Fitzroy Street. Claude Morgan. She won't be home till past 5. So tiring for her.
Never heard of Morgan.
No, nor anybody else. That's what I tell her. Why waste your time giving settings to a rising young artist when the big men 'd go down on their hands and knees to do you? But that's Lil all over. She's the best-natured girl in the world. And so she gets imposed on all round.
Farncombe gallantly.
I prophesy that Mr. Morgan's picture of Miss Paradell won't have dried before he's quite famous.
Mrs. Upjohn turning a pair of dull eyes full upon him.
How do you mean?
Farncombe disconcerted.
I mean...
Why won't it have dried?
I mean he will have become celebrated before it has dried.
His pictures never do dry, you mean?
No, Ma.
However, it doesn't matter. He isn't even going to put her name to it.
Why not?
You may well ask. He's bent on calling it the Mind the Paint Girl.
What's wrong with that? Everybody'll recognize who that is.
Mrs. Upjohn unconvinced.
Her name's printed on all her photos.
The first time I had the pleasure of seeing your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Upjohn, a man next to me said, "Here comes the Mind the Paint Girl."
Mrs. Upjohn cheering up.
Oh well, perhaps young Morgan knows his own business best. Let's hope so, at any rate.
Roper by the tea table beckoning to Farncombe.
Farncombe?
Farncombe to Roper.
Eh?
To Mrs. Upjohn rising.
Excuse me.
Farncombe joins Roper, whereupon Mrs. Upjohn goes to the writing table, and seating herself there, examines the jewellery delightedly. Roper to Farncombe in a whisper.
Do me a favour.
Certainly.
Roper looking at his watch.
It's only 4:30. Take a turn round the square. I've some business to talk over with the old lady.
Farncombe nodding to Roper, and then coming forward and addressing Mrs. Upjohn.
I think I'll go for a little walk and come back later on, if I may.
Mrs. Upjohn contentedly.
Oh, just as you like.
Farncombe moving towards the door.
In about a quarter of an hour.
If we don't see you again, I'll tell Lil you've been here.
Farncombe at the door.
Oh, but you will. You will see me again.
Well, please yourself and you please your dearest friend, as Lil's dad used to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He disappears, closing the door after him. Mrs. Upjohn to Roper, looking up.
I believe you gave that young man the end to go, Uncle.
I did. Told him I wanted to talk business with you.
Business?
Resuming her inspection of the trinkets.
This is a handsome thing Mr. Grimwood sent her.
Roper, his hands in his trouser pockets, contemplating Mrs. Upjohn desperately.
Upon my soul, Ma, you're a champion.
Now, what have I done?
Well, you might spread yourself a little over young Farncombe.
Spread myself? Why should I?
Lord Farncombe.
I treat 'em all alike. So does Lil. He's not the first title we've had here. Not by a dozen.
No, but damn it all, I beg your pardon.
Mrs. Upjohn beaming.
So you owe. Swearing like a trooper.
This chap's in love with her.
Oh, they're all in love with her. Or have been one time or another.
Yes, but they're not all Farncombes, and they're not all marrying men. I'm prepared to bet my boots that if Lil and young Farncombe could be thrown together...
Sitting on the settee in front of the writing table, as Mrs. Upjohn rises and comes forward.
Here, do talk it over.
Mrs. Upjohn placidly.
Where's the use of talking it over? It's wasting one's breath.
Moving to the settee by the piano.
My Lil doesn't want to marry. Anyhow, not yet a while. She's happy and contented as she is.
Sitting and smoothing out her skirt.
When she does, I suppose it'll be the captain.
Roper between his teeth.
The captain. Ma, the day Lil marries Nick O'Jays, you and she'll see the last of me.
Oh, don't say that, Uncle.
I do say it. The disappointment would be more than I could stand. Selfish, designing beggar.
Now, no low abuse.
A fellow who gets on the soft side of Lil before she's out of her teens, before she's made any position to speak of, and when she has made a position, and he's practically on his uppers, sticks to her like a limpet.
She sticks to him, too. It meant a deal to Lil in her humble days, recollect, receiving attentions from a gentleman in the army. She doesn't forget that.
Roper jumping up and walking about.
It's cruel, that's what it is, it's cruel. Here's Gwenny Harker and Maidie Travail, both married to peers' sons, and Eva Shafto to a baronet, all of 'em Pandora girls, and Lil, she's left high and dry, engaged to a nobody. It's cruel.
She's not actually engaged.
Ho, ho.
The idea was, when he shirked going to India and gave up soldiering so as to be nearer, that he should get something to do in London. Then they were to be engaged.
Roper sarcastically.
Oh, to be just, I admit he's in no hurry. He's been a whole year looking for something to do in London, looking for it at Catani's and at the Pandora bars.
He has to be on the spot at night to bring Lil home after her work.
Exactly. And when a decent, eligible young chap comes along and means business, he's choked off by finding Nick O'Jays in possession.
Stopping before Mrs. Upjohn.
But I say...
What?
Farncombe hasn't tumbled to it yet.
Mrs. Upjohn indifferently.
Hasn't he?
Bertie Fulkerson's held his tongue about it, so have the other boys who are friends of Farncombe's. They see he's hard hit. Oh, they're good boys, they're good loyal boys. There's not one of 'em who wouldn't throw up his hat if Nico got the chuck. Ma.
Mrs. Upjohn startled.
Hey!
This little spree tonight at the theatre, Lil thinks it's merely among the members of the company.
Ain't it?
Roper sitting beside her.
You keep quiet now. No, it isn't.
Ooh?
The boys and Farncombe.
Mrs. Upjohn disturbed.
Gracious! There'll be an awful fuss with the captain tomorrow.
Roper snapping his fingers.
Psh!
Mrs. Upjohn rising and walking away to the right.
He's so horribly jealous. When Lil tells him who was at the party, there'll be a frightful kick-up.
Roper falling into despondency.
Oh, I dare say I'm a fool for my pains, Ma. Nothing'll come of it.
Rising and pacing the room again.
Farncombe's as shy as a schoolgirl. He'll be on a desert island with a pretty woman for a month without squeezing her hand.
Mrs. Upjohn in an altered tone.
Uncle.
Hello?
Mrs. Upjohn thoughtfully.
I shouldn't raise any objection, bear in mind, if Lil could be waned away from the captain and took a fancy to young Farncombe.
Objection?
Mrs. Upjohn sitting on the settee in front of the writing table.
All said and done, to be Lady F with no need to work if you're not disposed to is better than being Mrs. Captain J's and having to linger on the stage perhaps till you drop to help keep the pot a-boiling.
Opening her eyes widely.
Lady F.
Roper coming to her.
And Countess of Godalming when his father dies.
I suppose there'd be any amount of unpleasantness with the family.
Roper disdainfully.
The family.
There's generally a rumpus in such cases.
Why, Ma, these tip-top families ought to be jolly grateful that we're mixing the breed for them a bit. Look at the two lads who've married Gwenny Harker and Maidie Travail, Kinterton and Glenroy, and Fawkes, Sir George Fawkes, Eva Shaftow's husband. They haven't a chin or a forehead between 'em, and their chests are as narrow as a 10-inch plank.
Quite true.
Farncombe himself, he's inclined to be weedy. I maintain it's a grand thing for our English nobs that their slips of sons have taken to marrying young women of the stamps of Maidie Travail and Gwenny Harker, or Lil. Keen-witted young women full of the joy of life, with strong frames, beautiful hair and fine eyes, and healthy pink gums and big white teeth. Sneer at the Pandora girls. Great Scott, it's my belief that the Pandora girls will be the salvation of the aristocracy in this country in the long run.
Captain Nicholas Jays lounges in. He is a man of about 35, already slightly grey-haired, who has gone to seed. Roper sits in the chair in the middle of the room rather guiltily, and Mrs. Upjohn puts on a propitiatory grin. Jeeves nodding to Mrs. Upjohn and Roper as he closes the door.
Afternoon, Mrs. Upjohn. How are you, Roper?
Ah, Captain.
Hello, Nico.
Jeeves advancing.
Lily not in?
No, she's in Fitzroy Street setting to Morgan.
Jeeves frowning.
Why didn't she ask me to go with her?
Dunno, I'm sure. She's took Miss Birch.
Oh?
Looking round.
Flowers.
Heaps of 'em, ain't there?
Roper jerking his head towards the writing table.
Yes, and some nice presents over here.
She's beat a record this year, Lil has. Out and out.
Jeeves goes to the writing table, and Roper and Mrs. Upjohn rise and wander away, the former to the conservatory, the latter to the settee by the piano. Jeeves scowling at the presents.
Very nice.
Picking up a case of jewelry.
Very nice.
Throwing the case down angrily.
Confound 'em! What the devil do they take her for?
Roper at the entrance to the conservatory.
I may remark that one of those gifts is from me, Jays.
Oh, I'm not alluding to you.
Much obliged.
Jeeves coming forward and addressing Mrs. Upjohn.
I've called in to ask Lily whether she'll come out to supper with me tonight to Catani's to celebrate her birthday. Luigi's decorating a table for me specially. Mr. and Mrs. Linthorne'll come, and Jack Weatherd.
To Roper.
Are you free, Roper?
Mrs. Upjohn sits uneasily on the settee by the piano, and Roper finds some object to interest him near the tea-table.
I suppose it's no good asking you, Mrs. Upjohn?
No, thank you, Captain. And I'm afraid...
Afraid?
I'm afraid Lil can't manage it either.
Why not?
I'm surprised she didn't mention it to you herself when you brought her home last night.
Mention what?
They're giving her a supper tonight at the theatre.
The theatre?
Roper advancing.
Yes, Carlton's standing a little spread in the foyer in honour of the occasion.
Sitting at the tea-table.
Quite right, too. She's his best asset, and chance it.
When was it fixed up?
Late last night.
The fact is, Lily and I had a slight tiff coming home last night.
Sitting on the settee in front of the writing table.
I suppose she kept it from me to pay me out.
Sharply.
Who's invited?
Only the principal members of the company, I understand.
Mrs. Upjohn moistening her lips with her tongue.
Yes, only the members of the company, Lil says.
With Maury Cooling and Vincent Bland thrown in.
Jeeves looking at Roper.
You seem to know a lot about it, Roper.
I was behind when Maury was going round to the dressing rooms.
Jeeves to Roper suspiciously.
Are you asked?
Eh?
Are you asked?
Roper with an attempt at airiness.
Oh, yes, they've dragged me into it.
Since when have you been a member of the company?
No, but, dash it, I've done business for Carlton in the city for 20 years or more.
That doesn't make you one.
And I'm an old friend of Lil's.
Not older than I.
Violently.
Why the blazes doesn't Smith invite me?
Roper extending his arms.
My dear Nico, I'm not giving the party. Really, you do jump down a man's throat.
Sorry.
Leaning back and thrusting his hands into his pocket.
Well, I'll put Jack and the Linthorns off. They don't want to sup with me. I shouldn't amuse 'em.
Gazing at the carpet.
Her birthday, though. It'll be the first time I shall have been out of that for... how many years? 6 years,
Raising his head, he detects Mrs. Upjohn and Roper eyeing each other uncomfortably.
Anything the matter?
The matter?
Jeeves taking his hands from his pockets and sitting upright.
Any game on?
Game?
At my expense?
I don't know what you're driving at, Captain.
Jeeves harshly.
How long's Lily sitting this afternoon?
Till 5.
Jeeves looking at his watch.
What's Morgan's number in Fitzroy Street?
60.
Jeeves rising.
I'll fetch her.
As he makes a movement towards the door, it is thrown open, and Lily Paradell enters with a rush, an entrancing vision of youth, grace, and beauty. She is followed by Jimmy Birch, a petite, bright-eyed girl in an extremely chic costume. Lily tearing off her gloves as she enters.
Phew! I'm dead.
Giving her hand to Jeeves carelessly.
Ah, Nico.
To Mrs. Upjohn.
I couldn't stand the heat in the studio any longer, Mother.
Finding Roper beside her, she offers her cheek to him, and he kisses it.
Mon oncle.
Jimmy closing the door.
That young man Morgan ought to paint the infernal regions.
Lily taking her scarf from her shoulder.
He might finish with the angels first, though.
To Jeeves softly, as Roper turns to shake hands with Jimmy.
You in a better temper today?
Geez, in her ear.
You drove me wild last night.